I'm the oldest man to win the Olympics. Everyone started to believe, you know, if Mitri can do it at 32, why can't I?
Los Juegos Olímpicos de Barcelona creo que significan la entrada en una nueva etapa de lo que es la máxima competición deportiva del planeta. Son los juegos primeros, que diría yo, francamente modernos. Carl Lewis no participó en los 100 metros, solamente en el salto de longitud y en el 4%, porque estaba enfermo y no pudo rendir al máximo en los trayectos clasificatorios de Estados Unidos. Sí, estuve en Barcelona 92, esos eran mis segundos Juegos Olímpicos y además eran en mi ciudad. Yo recuerdo perfectamente aquella narración en directo de la final de los 100 metros, donde todos decíamos que era una carrera muy abierta, que nos había gustado mucho Leroy Burrell en las semifinales, pero que Lynn Christie también estaba dando unas muy buenas sensaciones.
Hello, I'm Lynn Christie. Leroy Burrell was most probably the favourite because he was the fastest in the field. I was 32, and for a lot of people, you know, when I watch some of the commentaries back and everything else, some people say, oh, you know, I was going to be too old. Age is nothing but a number, and it's in your mind. And I honestly do, you know, feel that I wouldn't even say it was my peak because, you know, I ran past him the year after that. It's just, I didn't let them get into my head like that. But I do feel that it gave me that, you know, a big advantage because of, you know, the age and experience and everything else. We were out there and some of the journalists came over to me and they said, oh, Linford, you know, how does it feel to be the favourite? And as soon as I saw Leroy Burrell coming up, I said, no, I'm not the favourite, Leroy's the favourite. And then everybody went over to talk to Leroy and I just went and I ran away, you know. So what I did there was to shift. You know, because the favourite horse is always under pressure, and I didn't want that kind of pressure. So, you know, part of my psychological warfare, I shifted the pressure, you know, over to Leroy. You have to try and think, how are you going to beat your opponent? So you have to use your mind to get into their minds, and that's the way the race is won. So by the time we got, you know, out to the final, Leroy had a full start, and I knew there that was going to unsettle him because, again, you know, I do, you know, feel that I was one of the most experienced athletes out there. We got out the blocks, and because Leroy then had to hold back, you know, I knew then that, you know, by the time I got to 60 meters, I knew the race was all over because I knew then I was virtually in front, apart from I think maybe Frankie Fredericks was on the outside. You know, he was running pretty well. He had started pretty well, but I knew then I had the strength. You know that, you know, I was going to win, and I won.
Con esos 32 años consiguió una medalla de oro que significaba sobre todo el triunfo de la constancia, la perseverancia. Era algo así como el colofón a toda una vida deportiva donde había estado luchando muchísimo por conseguir por fin ser el número uno.
Hello. I knew that nobody expected me to win a medal. I was in lane 3, Leroy was in 6, Linford was in 5. So I just concentrated on the guys around me. I said that all I have to do is that I have to beat Raymond Stewart, that was in lane 2, and Dennis Mitchell, that was in 4, and I was in 3. So I think I focus on only that. If I beat Dennis Mitchell, then I know that, at least the worst I can do is third. So that's what I focus on, and I tried to beat him. And once I beat him, I looked over. I did not see Leroy, and then I said, okay, now I'm second.
If you look in the race and you turn back and you look at yourself, there's 8 black people, 8 black athletes, all in the race, in the final. You have to do something that's going to make you stand out. Even if you don't win, you're going to leave a mark that someone will remember. This is the reason why, I started all these outfits, because I felt that, yes, I've got to stand out. I was the first. Do something today that people will talk about tomorrow. And, people are still talking about my Lycras. I wasn't the fastest. I just made everybody else believe I was. That is my mindset and my mind game. Yeah, I'm having breakfast.